Hey, did you know that when you see a pigeon at the park, on the city street, winning a war medal, or just shitting on your car, it's not actually a wild pigeon? That's right, it's a feral pigeon, not a wild one. So what's the difference? Generally speaking, a wild animal is going to be any animal that has not been domesticated. This can include an animal that you find in the wild in its natural habitat, or a pet if you happen to have something like a pet raccoon, or a snake like Wilbur, my hognose here. A parrot is another example of a wild animal that you could keep as a pet. Probably more applicable here since we're talking about birds. But never forget, birds are reptiles. Feral animals are just domesticated animals that are living in the wild. If you released your dog into the wild, which, don't do that. But if you did and it survived, it would be a feral dog. It wouldn't all of a sudden be a wolf or cease being domesticated because it's out there in the wild. The species is still a domesticated species. Similarly, pigeons that you see in cities all over the place are actually feral populations of the domestic pigeon, which is derived from the rock dove. So yeah, pigeons are domesticated. They're also doves. We actually also think that they were our first domesticated birds, being domesticated originally around like 4500 BC, which is crazy. But also because they're domesticated, as far as birds go, pigeons are actually pretty decent pets. Far better than things like parrots and all kinds of other commonly kept birds. And this can be apparent in their traits. A feral pigeon is less likely to flee from you if, like, you were to walk towards it, which is more than you could say for most people's pet parrots. They're also not obnoxiously loud. They're not going to try to bite your fingers off. They're sweet. They like to cuddle. Look, if you took your parrot outside and let it go, which again, like the dog thing, don't do. There's a really good chance that your parrot will be gone and you will never see it again. Pigeons, however, far less likely to do this. If you get like a homing or a racing pigeon and you do a bit of training with them, you can take them in your car hundreds of miles away from your house, let them go, and they might beat you home. In fact, some can go up to 1,300 miles like this. Would you look at that? A pigeon nest. Well, really, 2 pigeon nests. Pigeon nests really are the funniest thing. But before we move on from the racing pigeons, I do want to say the most expensive pigeon ever sold was a racing pigeon for $1.8 million. Look, I'm not the holder of a lot of dollars, but I feel like if I had $2 million to spare, I wouldn't be spending it on a bird. And I really like birds, but that's a lot of money for a bird. This homing ability that they have that makes them good with racing is why they were used for mail delivery and were especially useful in times of war. Also, yes, pigeons were used for mail delivery, not ravens. Watch a little less Game of Thrones, a little more nerdy animal channels. So why were they used for mail delivery, especially in war? Because in some instances, they were the most efficient delivery method we had. Gotta keep in mind, this is before the internet, this is before, like, even telephones were really a thing. For part of the time that we used them for mail delivery in war, we had planes, but not even the whole time. But planes are also a lot easier to see up in the sky and shoot down. Ultimately, ground and other air delivery methods were just unavailable in, like, trench warfare. So they used pigeons. In fact, during World War II, the U.S. had over 200,000 pigeons working for our military. But all's fun in war, just like people try to intercept messages today. The same was happening with pigeons. Soldiers would try to shoot them down out of the sky. That was a little bit difficult. The Prussian army in the 19th century actually started to train hawks to hunt their enemies' pigeons out of the sky because, you know, it was difficult to shoot them out of the sky. So with so many pigeons serving in our military and aiding in the war effort, it's no surprise that 32 of them received the Dickin Medal, which is a medal awarded to animals for their work in World War II. They've been legitimately, awarded with saving lives, with some, like, G.I. Joe here saving over 100 men on one occasion because of his swift delivery of a message. So that's all nice and fine and dandy and stuff, but, like, what do we use pigeons for now? Are they nothing more than a nuisance and something to poop on your car? Well, there is one thing we use them for: releasing them during wedding ceremonies and other events. That's right, if you've been to an event and they happen to release white doves, those are actually a white breed of pigeon. And their homing ability is how they're able to be released and not get lost. They get released at the event and then they fly their happy butts back home to to their roost. That is, if the service is using actual homing pigeons and not just like the cheapest white bird that they could find, which some do, and that's why it's a best practice to not use animals for stunts like these. The last thing I want to talk about here is their intellect, because boy oh boy are domestic pigeons smart. They are one of only 2 birds to successfully pass the mirror test, the other one being the magpie. The magpie in Eurasia that's a corvid, not the passerine bird in Australia that's called a magpie, but most people would think of it as like a false magpie, even though its name is magpie. Doesn't matter, not the Australian magpie. The Eurasian magpie. The magpies that are stealing anti-bird spikes and incorporating those into their nests to keep other birds from attacking their nest. They're stealing our anti-bird spikes. They said, those are my anti-bird spikes. I'm putting it in my nest. Those magpies, not the ones in Australia that attack bikers. The real magpie in Eurasia and the domestic pigeon are the 2 birds that pass the mirror test. The mirror test being a test to see if an animal is able to recognize themselves in a mirror. Thus far, only a few animals besides us, like a number of apes, dolphins, elephants, have been able to pass the mirror test. In case you're wondering, yes, America's favorite pet birds, the parrots. Have we given them the mirror test? We did! They didn't pass. But who really cares about a mirror test? We want to see real intelligence. Are these birds engaging in the medical field? Well, surprisingly, Angry Alex, yes, they are, actually. They've been trained to recognize if a tumor is benign or malignant, with individuals able to be about 80% accurate. You take a group of pigeons, essentially the flock, and you take the majority decision of each one of them individually. That is about 99% accurate, which puts them roughly on par with human experts. But yeah, it turns out there's a lot more going on with pigeons than just rats of the sky and city pests. They're domestic animals that are there because of us. Like, there's no other reason they would be in our cities than we've used them for a long time for things like mail to help us win wars, for helping with research and discovery of tumors, not discovery, recognition, determining if a tumor is benign or malignant. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, pigeons are awesome. They deserve more love than they get, and if you have time, you should totally go look at fancy pigeons because they're hilarious. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you haven't yet, go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know what you like best in this video. What was your favorite fact? Hit the like button and then hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you know when I post a video again in the future. Thank you so much. Have a great day.